Community Viewpoint.
And welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pawlak, your host for this segment, and we have the pleasure today of having a very happy-go-lucky individual, Arnold Knightley, who up till a short time ago was the editor of the Pahrump Valley Times, and now he is the Public Information Officer for Nye County. And I'd like to introduce Arnold to you if you haven't met him when you're reading the paper, listening to his editorials. Arnold, you'll be seeing him on commissioner meetings and different venues that deal with Nye County. So welcome, Arnold.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome to the community, on this side of the community, Nye County, which is the third largest, well, you knew it was the third largest, and you have a lot of territory to cover.
Third largest in the continental United States.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't cover much of it because most of it's on the Nevada test site or the Air Force Base. But what possessed you to switch over to Nye County?
Well, I just, the opportunity came up and I just applied for it. I'd worked in newspapers for 16 years. I had really enjoyed that experience, but as I get older, I just wanted more challenges or different challenges, and I just thought it was time to, when that opportunity presented itself, I applied for it, and for some reason they hired me.
We'll find out what the reason is in the coming months. But you worked, your education was with UNLV.
Yes.
You've been with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, before that Boulder City Review and Las Vegas City Life, and that ended its tenure, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I killed it.
No, you didn't kill it.
Pretty much, yeah, that was me.
What did happen to that?
It was just the company got sold, and the new ownership just felt like they wanted to go a different direction, so they closed the newspaper. And it was during the middle of the downturn, so the economies hadn't really come back, and so they had just felt that it was time to go in a different direction, which was no direction at all for City Life.
Yes. That was kind of a thick paper too, wasn't it?
Yeah, at its height it had been pretty thick, but it had been down, I think, like 20 or 30 pages by the end.
Because we, over the folks like in Tacoma and outlying areas, would go into to Vegas and pick it up and bring it back and see what was happening. It
was the first newspaper of alt-weekly, as they call them, alt-weekly newspaper of its kind in Las Vegas, and it was the biggest, and then other companies came in and set up similar newspapers, and
that killed that. You just
it just kind of changed. And
yeah. Oh, interesting. So, how interesting is it to work in the Nye County venue now? You have to come to. You don't have to, but you're at the commissioner meetings.
Well, no, I pretty much have to come to the commissioner meetings. I mean, that's where the sausage is made for the county, right, as they would say.
Okay.
You know, so.
If we're having sausage. So we're going to have a good time for the next 8 or 10 minutes. So do you have any specific jobs that are in mind that are coming with you? I know you took a picture with Matt Lewis already. That was in the paper.
Well, and one of the things that the Pam Webster and the county commissioners really wanted to do with this position, because they had it a few years ago, I think before the downturn, but in the social media age and the way people are on the internet, and you know, with your show that hits on YouTube, you have it on the station, then you put it out on YouTube, and the county hasn't really engaged the community in those kind of ways.
Oh, so, social media,
or even if you go to the county's website, you know, it's needs to be updated. So those are the kind of things I'm tasked with, among many other things. You know, we didn't even have a Facebook page until 6 weeks ago. You know, the Twitter account had been dormant. You know, just engaging the citizens, letting them know what's happening with their county.
Right.
And it's not just Pahrump, even though that's where the majority of the people live. We want to engage people, you know, up to Beatty, Tonopah, Gabbs, Round Mountain, make it feel more like their community, their county.
Right, understandable. Yeah, because by the time this airs, we'll have the Earth Arbor Day already, but we went heavily into social media to see if there's a different group that comes out, or if we get more people through the social media. In the past, we've gone through the newspapers, television here, radio and whatnot, and the amount of people came out, it was decent, but we'll see if this changes this year by going through social media, because that's where it seems to be with the millennials and the rest.
Well, it's also part of telling the county's story too, and I take calls, when citizens might call with concerns and they want like answers on something, sometimes I field a lot of those calls and,
Okay.
Give them the answers they're looking for and, just try to be the middle person, help facilitate between the county. And I'm also tasked with, updating the website and all sorts of other things. It's a vast job.
Well, being the the editor of a newspaper means that your skin is a little bit thicker than most of us, right?
Yeah, you would think that.
So I'm sure people will be testing you also through the months and the years. So I notice you've got the Yucca Mountain button also.
Yes.
I'm a former Yucca Mountain public information officer myself. My goodness.
I see.
Yes, I had an office here for about 4.5 years. And I understand that you know a lot about Yucca Mountain.
Well, I thought I did, but now I'm thinking you probably know more. So
I forgot more than you know.
Yeah,
yes.
You probably have. No, Yucca. It's kind of interesting. My second, because I started March 13th, and I think about March 14th or 15th is around the time the new Energy Secretary Rick Perry came to Yucca Mountain, surprisingly, quietly.
Yeah, yes.
And things have started really rolling with Yucca Mountain. And, Nye County has always had an important central role in that project. It is in our backyard. We've always been supportive as a county of pursuing the science. Mm-hmm. Seeing what the science says before moving ahead with the project, and we haven't even gotten that far yet. I mean, $15 billion has been spent on the project. Uh-huh. I was fortunate enough to go out a couple years ago to Yucca Mountain, and it's massive and it's impressive, but it's also stripped down. But it seems to be momentum rolling on that project again, and we'll see where it goes.
Yes, because it's still there. It's the law of the land. It's just that it doesn't have any funding. And from what I understand now, reading in the newspaper, that it's being proposed in the House of Representatives to reestablish funding for it once again.
Well, it's also updating the act, the Nuclear Waste
Yes.
Act that you were discussing from 82 and 87. It would be a modern update of that and give the state a seat at the table and things like that. So we're excited.
It was a very rewarding job for myself. I enjoyed working with that. With Bechtel SAIC, who had the contract at the time, bringing people out to the site, and I believed in it, and I still do. I believe it's an environmentally safe project, much more than the Bennett test site was in the beginning.
Well, one of my roles, too, is to help educate over the hill in Vegas, because it's so interesting how Yucca Mountain has been talked about and how Yucca Mountain has been described in the press and by politicians, the federal politicians, has been mostly peddling fear.
Yes.
And, I'll talk to friends who I've known a long time, and I'll say, well, this hasn't been done. The state says they're against it, but we have 9 counties around who are wanting to move forward with the licensing process and hearing the science, and it's like amazing to them. They're like, well, we never hear this. And, part of my role is to get that story out. When the act was introduced on Wednesday, I sat down with Commissioner Dan Shinhoff in the chair. We wrote a letter, we got it, and our quotes are in the paper today. So, it's getting that voice heard instead of just having the one side, because the press hasn't in the past thought of coming to us, and we're being more proactive. Mm-hmm. We had a gentleman from Channel 8 out at the Front Valley Museum the other day who came out for Yucca Mountain and talked to my Dan Shinhoffen and Michael Vogel, who had worked on the project,
Dr.
the
Vogel,
scientist,
yes.
and Dr. Vogel, and the interviewer from Channel 8 was just totally surprised that he had never heard this stuff before. So it's getting that message out, and we hope to do more of those.
Yes, well, you have the ability to do that because you've been in the newspaper industry, and you know who the people are to speak to and where the flag is coming from too.
Right,
Yes. So that's very, very interesting. So you took a tour with.
So 2 years ago, when
That was a special tour then.
that was the tour when Shimkis, I can't remember his first name,
Shimkis?
the representative from Illinois,
right.
who is involved in this new legislation that came out to update the act, and Crescent Hardy and some other federal politicians and DOE employees and everything went to the mountain to do a fact-finding tour. And as editor of the Private Valley Times, I was able to get on that tour and see the mountain firsthand, and it's really a different experience when you go out and you see how big and how massive this $15 billion hole in the ground is.
Yes. So we're starting to talk. This is all about Yucca Mountain.
Right.
What are some of the other things that you've got on your plate to do also? You've got Nye County has different other things to do also.
Well, one of the other things that I do is I'm working with the sheriff's office. So I help with their press releases now, because before it was, one of the operations sergeant would send out the press releases, or reporters like your own Deanna O'Donnell would call, and and sometimes, they're police officers. They might be on a call or out in the field or dealing with other things, and they don't have time to react in that timely manner. And so part of my role at the sheriff's office is to help facilitate those press releases and calls and try to set up interviews and and help in those matters and take things off the plates of the officers who should be out in the field keeping, or in the offices keeping the community safe and protected.
Yes, because that's what one of my jobs was when Yucca Mountain was in full swing. Department of Energy would send press releases here, and the people here at the time would give me the press release, and I would take out all the big words that they didn't know, what the acronyms, and then I sent it back to them so they could read it on the news in English. So, but I want to thank you for spending this 12, 13 minutes with us, and we'll see a lot more of you in the near future. Maybe I'll see you at Yucca Mountain. Maybe I'll get my job back.
We're done.
I'm sorry. We'll be back
again. Can we bump
again.
the fish lady?
No. Thank you. See?
Community Viewpoint.